Wizards of the Coast is pushing players into a corner. And what I mean by that is we have products at a higher price point. We also have products in shorter supply due to tighter print runs. So what does that ultimately lead to? Price spikes in the singles market based on supply-demand issues. Players are beginning to ask that question, how can they best avoid the spiking prices of individual cards? Stick around, everyone. We have a lot to cover in today's video. If you really want to know how to avoid a price spike in Magic the Gathering, the simple answer is you're not going to. You can avoid some of the pitfalls. You can save yourself a ton of money by being ahead of the curve, but you are not going to avoid every single price spike. You're not going to avoid every single situation where there's a card you want that is just going up in value so quickly, it doesn't make sense to buy it. Welcome back, everyone. MTG Moxman here. Thanks again, guys, for hanging out with me on the channel today. And you know what? If you enjoy the Moxman, if you enjoy my content and you want to see more of me, hit the subscribe button, turn on your notification bell. I put up a new video every single day. So we're talking about avoiding massive price increases on cards. Now, this happens for numerous reasons, but the real pressure we're seeing right now is from Wizards of the Coast with this whole thing about tighter print runs. We have lower demand for sealed boxes, which means supply-demand issues, although they're not spiking yet, are going to become a more regular issue that players need to anticipate for. And by anticipating, I mean looking ahead at your needs and desires in Magic the Gathering, looking at possible card combinations coming up to try to stay ahead of the curve. Now, of course, this isn't always going to work. As much as I'm going to give you information and show you little bits of here and there, paying attention every day, I still miss things all the time. I'm late to the party. For every 2 or 3 things I catch, I'm going to miss one. Don't beat yourself up about it. It's a card game. You're trying to save yourself as much money as you can and spend wisely, but the odd time, you're going to overpay for a card. And then the card's going to tank later on, or you're going to get a great deal on a card because you did pay attention, it spikes, and you can give yourself a pat on the back. Take the good with the bad, but understand you're not going to solve every issue. Now, these aren't the only reasons. The supply-demand thing is the main chunk thing I see coming down the pipe, which is pretty scary for a lot of players. But it's more than just that. What even is a price spike? How much does something have to go up by before players start going, what's going on? Before they turn their head and look away, there's a lot of different versions of price spikes. Let me share some with you here. Let's jump to column 1. Here is Shoulder of the Apocalypse. Now, when this thing first came out, it was around 40 bucks. You can see right there, I did this nice crayon arrow mini mox style going up, and you can see the price over the last 2 years has just gone up and up and up from Dominaria United. September 2022, you're looking at the $40 range, all the way up till now, where the thing's closing in past 100 bucks. It freaks people out because they know this thing is coming for a reprint. They know it's coming around again. They just don't know where. Look at the average price, $94.70, because this card is a beast. Okay. If you were lucky and you got it at the $40 to $50 mark, consider yourself lucky. I'm in that boat. I decided not to buy some collector packs, and I bought 2 of them on release weekend. Great. But that doesn't mean that I bought my other 2 that I wanted for a standard playset. It means somewhere down the line, if I wanted these cards, I missed the boat on buying all 4, and now I'd have to overpay. When you look at the card and the indicators of that card, who knew how expensive that card was going to be or how difficult that card was going to be to pull? When you look at what the card did, players who are savvy enough to understand the possible combinations with that card were buying at least a couple of introductory copies or trading in for copies, realizing it. But most players, seeing the print run of how Wizards of the Coast was doing things, shied away from it, expecting the price to collapse after a mass amount got opened. And there was a lot opened, but the market demand outstripped the supply. That led to the price going up. And yes, we saw it come around in the jump start. We even saw March of the Machines with the alternate version come around. It still wasn't enough to satisfy the market, and this card is where it is. Now, it's going to rotate out of Standard, but let's face it, it's not just being played in Standard. We all know that. This thing is literally everywhere. The apocalypse is the apocalypse, so the only thing that's going to be the saving grace is a possible reprint. What is the likelihood of a reprint? Well, you've already missed the price spike, so now you're depending on the price coming down. Your best bet, your best chance, is when it rotates out of Standard. There will be a temporary blip of a dip in this price. Historically, we've seen this happen set after set, release after release. You're going to have to wait for it, and you're going to have to justify it to yourself because it's still going to be an $80-something card. It is not going to drop that low. And people who are expecting a reprint know it's not likely to happen now. We'll be waiting for another form of Master Series product, which means you're at least into 2025. Are you willing to wait another year? For those who didn't catch it at 40 bucks, you're now stuck paying the $80 as your best bet price or trading in some other cards you have, which means you're technically even paying more depending on the value of the card you're trading in. Cards like that, being able to understand and read the card would have saved you some money, but no one truly could have anticipated what the supply-demand issue would be with this card, how difficult it would be to get, so don't kick yourself about that one, okay? It's not worth the time or effort. Now, this one here recently came to my attention. This is Magnus of the Moon. It's the Time Spiral Remastered version. Now, a price spike, what is it? How much does it have to be? Well, the monthly change on this card says $6.27. I've circled it in the corner, and you can see it's like ramping up here about the $15 mark to $13.52 US. The market's around the same, and a foil is more expensive. But when it initially came out, this card tanked from 20 bucks all the way down. And it hovered for the last 2 years, not doing much. But now we see the price spike. I want you to think about that for a second. We've gone 2 years seeing not a lot of movement with this card. And then it spikes up. It's Magnus of the Moon. It's basically another form of Blood Moon as a creature type. Is that card, after 2 years of seeing it where it was, going to stay at this price? I would argue with you, this is a price spike that is going to settle. This card's been reprinted a few times. It's been around the block. And what are the chances of it truly holding the same level of price after the amount of reprints we've seen, as well as the history of the card? Chances are in your favor. You can avoid buying this card right now. Wait 120 days, go back, and save yourself about 40% of the money, if not 50%. This card will trend back down. Like we've seen with previous cards that get spikes for whatever recent combination or whatever crazy combo some player came up with, they always settle down. Look at things like, even on the reserve list, Soldevi Digger combo with River Song, it went down. You got Mind Over Matter, the thing's gone down so many times, up and down like a yo-yo. The price always settles eventually. History of the card tells us this, so that is a card you can avoid. It has a long life history. We've seen multiple reprints, at least 3 times, and we know where the card is generally going to settle. Now, in some cases, Wizards overprints and it kills value. But again, we think, to the best of our knowledge, Wizards may be cutting back on a lot of reprints and a lot of how much they print in each cycle. So, tighter print runs means supply-demand issues. It means this card, although it's spiking now, is the demand going to be high enough for a reprint? Probably not. So it's going to go back down. It's just a matter of time. So how much time can a player wait? 13 bucks may seem like nothing to you guys, but to other players, that's a lot of cash. Especially if you're buying 10 or 20 cards of the same price range. So a price spike to me is anything over 5 to 10% in a single month. This card is definitely above that. Now, how about our next card here? Take a look at Yavimaya Cradle of Growth. It went up only $1 something this month. Nothing crazy. Modern Horizons 2, this thing got opened tons. The supply is massive on this card. It went from starting at around the $30, $40 range, the initial excitement of the pre-release, and it tanked. The thing's been as low as $8. So now you're down at $8. Why would you want to buy it? Well, it does turn all your lands into forests, which is kind of cool. We got Urborg, Tomb of Yawgmoth. I've made this argument numerous times to you guys. And now that it's gone up a couple of bucks, a few people are like, hey, have you noticed this thing's going up? Of course I've noticed, but I don't have to worry. I have a couple of play sets. I have some for prizes, for patrons and stuff, as well as cards for myself, because I bought 2 play sets of the retro ones. And by the way, I paid $25 for each one. So even the Moxman messes up. I overpaid for those cards, which are now far cheaper than they used to be. Could have saved myself 50%. So right now, is this a good time to buy? Is this avoiding a price spike by buying it early enough? Well, we know Modern Horizons 3 is coming, and there's a lot of rumors that they're going to put the next land of this type of cycle of lands buried into this set. If it happens, the card is going to spike. So are you better off now saving yourself 50% of the price by buying it right now? Maybe. There's no guarantee they're going to put it in the set. But do you need a copy at some point anyway? You have to ask yourself these questions, because if you have the forethought to look ahead and buy these cards before they even have an opportunity to spike, and after they've bottomed out, you will save yourself a ton of money. It's not a joke. It happens on the reserve list. It happens in regular modern cards, commander staple cards. It goes in cycles. Patience will always win the day. And justifying your costs and understanding you might win or lose a little bit, but hedging your bets on an overall pattern of coming out ahead is a winning solution for everyone. You have to look at the market noise, look at the possibilities, and ask yourself, what do I believe the chances are? For this one, for me, yes, buying 4 more for 30-something bucks to $40 seems like a pretty good deal if I think I'm going to play with them in the near future. I'd save myself the money now because I think it's going to come around personally. Now, our last one here, let's look at Wasteland. Wasteland here, this is the Tempest version. It spiked, it was over $100 back in 2014. And then, of course, reprints and things started happening. But you'll notice the weekly change there of $3.46. I didn't circle this one. I just want to note it to you because lands are always one of those things people use. Reprints of valuable lands come around every so often, but tighter print runs and the viability of that land in multiple decks means it gets bought all the time. And lands are one of those things, players don't like to interchange them all the time between commander decks. They're not expensive enough, so they tend to buy a few extra, which of course puts more pressure on the supply demand. So for this card to spike up, even $3 in a month, remember, look at the price, $33, and it went up $3.40 in a week. That's a 10% margin. That's a spike. It may not be some huge, elaborate one. We're like, oh my god, the card went up 50%. It's not like it was Copy Artifact, which had the buyouts on the reserve list, but that's still a 10% jump in price in a very short period of time. Is it going to continue? The history of the card, again, glance at it. You can see it's kind of been doing this kind of meandering up and down. And this is the Tempest version. There are some other versions that are cheaper for you to look at. But I like the OG cards for future potential value and growth of collectible side of Magic, okay? Just kind of more unique to me. I look at all those price spikes. I look at these 10% gains or $2 or $3 gains. And you ask yourself, you know, when you think of Deadly Dispute from Dungeons and Dragons, it was kind of a spiky card, a lot of usage. Then they brought around to Commander Legends Battle for Baldur's Gate, but since that set was so undersold, the price never really went down the way Wizards of the Coast expected it to. Even the company itself and their economics team can mess this stuff up. They can underappreciate or overvalue what they're doing, and it doesn't work out for them just like it doesn't for us, for players. Staying out of the curve means looking at the latest combinations, seeing how prevalent and popular they are, stepping back and saying, do I really need to play this combination right now? Is this a deck I can wait for? Is this a combination I can wait half a year to get my hands on? And then mark the card. Put it on a spreadsheet, check in on it every couple of weeks, every month, every 2 months, and see where the card is trending. We know cards do have an upper limit. Sheoldred is really topping out. It's getting to the kind of high point of where any kind of modern staple card like that can really go right now. When they get above that, it is definitely a reprint target that's coming down the pipe faster than you can believe. The only thing holding it back is Wizards of the Coast knows how the economy of Magic is and knows how a lot of their products are being received, so they're holding back their hands. They are building IP equity, which means there might be a bit of a lagging period. For a lot of the cards players desire, it's not going to be a Sheoldred. That may not be the card you're after. Maybe you want a Vorinclex, Monstrous Raider. Maybe you're just after a Soldevi Excavations, no matter what the card is. You can follow the trending price. You can find out history and news on these things, or you can just ask people. You can check things and take information in and dissect it to the best of your ability and what you can tolerate as a price. because the price point of a 10% spread or a 15 or 20% spread, a spike of 50% still may mean nothing to you if you really want to get the card bad enough. I'm talking about trying to save as much money as you can in this video, and that means cutting the corners, waiting and being patient, and picking the cards up after the popularity has died down, after the card has waxed and waned, so you can finally get a copy of it to play and enjoy with, depending on where you want to put it into. If you're building a standard deck, you may not be able to wait. You maybe have to have them right away. But if you look at things, even things like, remember Urza, the Lord High Artificer and stuff like that, right? The one that turns into the Massive Planeswalker. All those guys started out at 40, 50 bucks. Now they're like $5 cards. They come down in price because people aren't playing with it enough. It's too easily killable or dealt with, and the card has no value. But those initial people who bought the card got hosed. The people who waited came out ahead. Always keep it in mind. Patience wins the day. It always comes out ahead. People who have the flash in the pan idea usually are on the losing end. Thanks a lot for hanging out. Thanks for being here. I hope you enjoyed the video today. I'm looking forward to seeing your comments in the comments section on what you think of the idea of avoiding price spikes by buying when the market is low and just holding onto the cards until you actually need them. Guys, have a great day, and don't forget, bring a friend to Magic. I'll see you tomorrow for another video. Can you believe it? We made it till the end of the video. We're here. These are all the patrons. These are all the amazing supporters of my channel who support the Moxman and help make this daily content possible. It's amazing to see all these people here. Thanks again, everyone. You guys are just awesome. Welcome back to the Ramble Jamble. You have made it to the end, and yes, it's important. I'm glad you made it. We have a lot of exciting things to talk about, and oh, I'm out of coffee. Oh, sorry. I guess we'll just have to wait till tomorrow to find out what I meant. It's horrible when you run out of coffee and you can't carry a conversation. I feel so bad for everyone.